Hi, I'm Chus. I'm a veterinary scientist and this is Science with Danio, a channel where you will learn science easily and fall in love with it. In the previous video, we saw that a virus is able to make the cell it enters read its genetic material and produce copies of itself. In this video, we will see how this genetic material is written and how it is read, which is very important to understand how a virus behaves. If we were to look closer and closer, and even much more, we will realize that all living things are made up of bricks called cells. In the center of each of these cells, in what we call the cell nucleus, there is a library of recipe books. In those books, you will find very detailed instructions of how to make one of each of us. When a cell is going to start manufacturing, it makes a copy of the recipe it's interested in and takes it to another part of the cell, which is called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm would be like the kitchen of the cell. In this part, the cell is able to follow the instructions of the recipe and make succulent dishes called proteins. When a virus enters a cell, it introduces its own recipe. The cell doesn't realize that this recipe is not its own and starts making the proteins that form the virus. This is possible because both recipes are written in the same language. In fact, it's the same for all living beings on the planet. The language in which genetic information is written is universal. Next, let's see what the language looks like. Pay close attention because understanding this will allow us to understand many things about viruses. In this cookbook, I have used all the letters of my alphabet to write my favorite recipe, rice with beans. In Spanish, we have 27 letters. However, in the language of life, it is simply written with 4 letters. These letters are A for adenine, T for thymine, C for cytosine, and G for guanine. Adenine is thymine's best friend, and they fit in very well. And the cytosine is the best friend of the guanine, and they also fit in very well. In the nucleus of the cell, this information is in the form of a double chain, each letter with its friend opposite it, forming a molecule we know as the desoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, that is shaped like a double helix. This forms very long chains. Our DNA contains approximately 3.2 billion letters. If we were to take the DNA from just one of your cells and stretch it out, it could be about 2 meters long, which is a lot taller than you. Unsurprisingly, it fits into the nucleus of a cell that is 100 times smaller than a millimeter, which means it has to be packed up very tightly. When the cell wants to cook the DNA strands are separated as if you were to open a book. And our writer, who is called RNA polymerase, appears and joins one of the strands and copies the information that interests her in the form of another molecule called ribonucleic acid or RNA. It uses the same letters as in DNA except that as a complement to adenine, it uses uracil instead of thymine. This RNA travels to the cytoplasm where a merry cook called a ribosome reads it and cooks great dishes called proteins. There are viruses whose genetic material is DNA and others whose genetic material is RNA. So, what they do by infecting the cell is introduce its RNA, and therefore our poor cook ribosome starts manufacturing copies of the virus. If you want to know more about how the genetic information is written, transcribed, and translated, visit our blog. In the following video, we are going to talk about how new viruses appear and where we think the SARS-CoV-2 comes from. We would like you to help us with drawings of animals, bats, camels, cats, pangolins, dogs, chickens, pigs, etc. In the notes of the video, you will see how to proceed. And if you have already sent us a drawing and you haven't seen it yet, keep on watching until the end of the video to see it. Together, we are going to beat this virus. You will see.